Hello and welcome to A New Leadership Playbook, our live podcast discussing topics related to leadership and empathy and growing and compassion and all things in between. Also, some of the downsides, imposter syndrome, perfectionism. We've covered so many other topics, and today is no different. We're going to be talking about stepping up and speaking out, asserting your authority at work. Yes, I'm Keshawn Hughes, and I'm joined as always by Natalie Jobity.
Hi, everyone. It's just topic is so, all the topics we talk about, we have so much to say. And this one I feel is just so loaded with personal stories, but also so much information we want to share. So we'll try to keep it to the 30 minutes as always.
Always.
I'll just introduce myself really quickly.
Yeah.
So my company is The Unveiled Way. I'm the Brilliance Unveiler. And I am so passionate about working with impact-minded seasoned executives and founders to help them unveil their brilliance, which means a whole lot of different things, so that they can have their undeniable impact and lead unapologetically in their arena. And I always use the word arena because I just realized it probably came from Brene Brown. I always say arena. I'm like, that's one of the words. Yeah, and I have a whole the Unveil Way is coaching, but it's also speaking, it's also workshops, and now I have two books. It's Your Time to Shine, Girl is my latest one, and I have an affirmation deck now called She Shines, which the picture behind there is one of the images. So it's an umbrella of a lot of different things that are unfolding, and I'm just grateful to have a impact to empower women to be their best, brightest selves in their arenas.
Awesome work. You have definitely impacted me. And I was just telling Natalie before we started the call today how much I'm excited about our partnership, how grateful I am to just learn from her and glean from her every time we do these talks. As I said, I'm Keshawn Hughes. I'm a certified neuroscience-based coach and leadership consultant, and I founded my organization, Neuro Savvy Leadership. And we help to build inclusive leaders in mass or as individuals through coaching, training, workshops, message and communication development. We do it all. And I'm just so thrilled about this work. I feel like I found my purpose. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a friend, auntie, all of those good things. And in all, I'm a leader. I'm a leader in lots of different ways that I show up. And this conversation in particular is so important because there were times, as I put in my social media post, where I did not self-advocate. And so this is a very personal topic for me. And I want to help to open it up, help us understand it more, and see how we can help other leaders make sure that they're doing that intentionally and also just automatically. It should be like I want to get to the place where it's like an automated habit within us to do
and
that.
strategically, I have to add that because
Yes.
there's strategy involved in knowing how to self-advocate at the right time and
I love that.
how to do it. Yes, so there's that part. But let's just get rolling, Keshawn. And I was thinking because I had seen this article posted, and I think it's the opposite of what we're talking about, but I think it's really important to bring it out in the beginning here about self-silencing being a thing among women. And so the article was in Time, and I had it pulled up. It was earlier last month, and it was about how the self-silencing, which is literally not using your voice and not speaking out, and how it actually makes us sick as women, all kinds of not just depression, anxiety, but different things like autoimmune disorders.
Yes.
The article was, I literally thought like this, oh my goodness, like we're thinking that we're doing a good thing and we're actually making ourselves ill when we do not speak our truth, when we do not let our true thoughts and emotions and ideas come to life from our voice because we're suppressing what's inside of us. And so I bring that up because it is how I operated. Like Keshawn is saying, I have a whole personal journey about how I was self-silencing for a lot of my at least I would say probably first decade of my professional life. Like I didn't, it was just coming from a different culture where I remember like one of the things, like when I would see my peers talking to my boss and just calling him by his first name, those things was so foreign to me. And I used to think I had to, it was just a whole unlearning I had to do from my cultural upbringing about authority, because there was a lot of like a hierarchy and all that. So kind of like getting all past all that was number one. But number two was, after that was, how do I speak up for what I need, what I want, what I truly desire, and I have a whole story in my book. I was just sharing with Keshawn. I have a whole chapter
Yeah.
on it's called chapter 9. Can't get the name of it right now. Chapter 9 in my book, It's Your Time to Shine, Girl, about self-advocacy, because it's
Mhm.
where your power colors become your own best champion.
Mhm.
And my journey to become my own best champion, it was like a pivotal moment when I had a review. And when my boss at the time, and she was actually younger than me, but it doesn't matter, she asked me, she said, "Do you want to be research director? Because it doesn't seem like you do. You seem like you're happy where you are." And it made me go,
Mhm.
and that was my first like, wait, what?
Right.
Oh, oh, no, I do want to be research director. Why don't they think? And because I wasn't saying anything, I was
Yes.
not saying anything. And so the
Whew.
point is that so many women believe that just because we work hard, we do the things that we
Mhm.
people just automatically assume we want to get up the ladder, we want to be this or that. If we don't articulate what we actually desire, our dreams, our vision for our career,
Mm.
we can't assume people are going to know what it is or even care. So that was such a pivotal point for me, and it really changed my whole trajectory.
Mhm.
Her putting that out for me to literally go like, no, I do want that. But
Yes.
instead of, so but for everybody else that's listening, you want it to be that you put out what you desire in the sphere, in your company, your business, the organization, whatever it is, so that people can be, okay, Keshawn's trying to be chief DEI officer, whatever it might be, whatever the role is, that they know your aspiration, and then you can keep speaking to it. I know I'm going very fast with all this right now,
You're
but
saying so much, and it's so juicy. There's so many things
sorry.
you're saying. I wrote down so many notes. Let me just tell you what I wrote down when you were talking about the Time article. Psychosomatic. There are
Ah,
psychosomatic experiences that we have. So what that means, and I'm not a scientist, but I'm just putting the words together and giving my own meaning. There
yeah,
are experiences that are both within our psychology, our mindset, that show up in our bodies, in the
yeah,
soma, the body core, and everything works together. Everything works together. So when we have symptoms of illness, of dis-ease, of discomfort, these are all messages our bodies are trying to tell. They're always communicating with us.
body talking,
Sometimes before
yeah,
actually, scientifically, our bodies communicate faster with us before our minds and our thinking brain comes
yes,
online.
yes.
Our body's already sending us signals, giving us information, and it's so important for us to give voice to it. Give voice to it.
To
Even
tune
now,
into it, and
tune
to tune
in.
into it, and even
Yes.
recognize what's happening, and then give voice to it, right?
Yes. So the awareness, the acknowledgement, we have to acknowledge. So, because I feel like with this conditioning through
Mm,
childhood, just to be a strong person, to be a resilient person, right? I think sometimes the intentions are well, they're well intentioned when
yeah,
we get these messages to show up in a certain way, to present ourselves in a certain way. However, they're not situational. And so
no,
there are certain situations in which what we've learned and how we've been conditioned and trained to be is not beneficial.
serving us,
It's
yeah,
not serving us. It's not healthy for us. We literally will have health conditions from that. I'm even thinking like today, I have some stuff going. I've been coughing, right? And so I always look up what's the energetic meaning for this cough? What's the spiritual meaning for this cough?
um,
Because and then I tune into myself like where in my life is something happening in
mm,
this part of my body in the throat chakra that's not being released, that has been suppressed, that or that hasn't been honored, right? Because
so good.
the literal understanding of the world, the logic, we can get the logic, right? Logical understanding and meaning for everything. However, there's also that creative, that intuitive, that sensitive,
Yes.
spiritual understanding of
Woo.
what's going on with us as well. So that's just one little piece that came up for me as you were talking about that article. But you shared so much, Natalie. You shared so much.
Because I literally could like
Yes,
it
it was
all.
so good. It was so good going even into your career experience. And then the light bulb moment. I just love, I was trying to think of language to describe how you were perceived versus what you were seeing, the different lenses of Natalie.
Yes. So
Please share
they were
more about that.
seeing
How do you describe that?
that's such a good point. So they were seeing potential, but they were, but for some reason, because I was so good at
Mm.
suppressing and minimizing and diminishing myself,
Wow.
they're like, oh, she doesn't care about that because she's not even. So they did. She could not even have mentioned that in the review
Mm.
because they were so convinced that I did not care about getting up the ranks.
Wow.
And the truth is, I'm actually a high achiever,
Mhm.
But even back then, I just didn't understand the way things worked, or that I had to even, I didn't even know I had permission. Let's even go there.
Yes. Oh my God, that's so good.
Permission to say,
Mhm.
I would like to be a research director. What does that entail? What do I have to do to prepare for that role? I didn't even put stuff, anything out there. So that, thank God, this was a very small company that really cared about the people.
Mm.
Um, and that they even brought this to my attention, that they were seeing that in me. But you're right. I was not even seeing myself in my brilliance at all.
Wow.
I I was so disconnected. Oh my God. I
That part. Ooh wee. Yes. Yes.
so disconnected from myself. I was in the hustle grind,
Yes.
people pleasing, perfecting, how full on all those things.
Yes.
And when we're in that posture, we're not able to be objective. We're not able to be to honor the amazing, brilliance, phenomenal things that we have in us, our talents, our expertise, because we're so focused on the other's perception of us that
Mhm.
we can't even see ourselves objectively, like for who we are. And so, so much, like you say, so much in that.
There I'm silenced. Yes. But not self-silencing. I'm just like what's the word? Like so full. You
Yeah,
are speaking my life in so many different ways, and other women that I work with, other women in my circles of
yeah,
friendships, in my family. That's what you're speaking to right now.
I know.
The hustle, the grind, the work hard, the show up for everybody, focusing and
Exactly.
knowing intently what others' needs are in delivering and finding some sense of joy and satisfaction in that. However, where are we on that list? Where do we show up for
And
ourselves? Ask
and at,
ourselves what's needed and what could be done for us. Absolutely, yes.
and at some point, that over delivering and pleasing and performing, at some point, it does have fulfillment. You saying, like, there's a high we get from that, of
Yeah,
course, but it's a very short high. I call it the
yes,
sugar high. And then at some point it no longer fulfills us, because
yep.
we're again, we're disconnecting so much from our true needs and desires, that at some point all that fixating on the other's needs is
Mm-hmm.
not going to serve us at all, and actually hurts us, right? It actually goes back, and then so that back to like the symptoms that start to show up, and the unfulfillment and the frustration and the satisfaction and the languishing and the all the slope, the stuck, this what the quiet quitting, all the different things that can
Yep.
show up, because we are not either being in the posture where we can truly align our talents and expertise in the role we desire, or we in the wrong environment, period, right? But
Yeah.
until we learn to, so let's go back to the core thing here, self-advocacy, using our authority. So authority for me right now is such a potent word,
Mm.
self-authority, because that's even beyond just confidence, right? It's like saying, like, I know who I am, I'm standing in my truth, I'm standing firmly, no matter who the naysayers, the people who don't agree, whatever, I'm standing in my truth. I am a person with opinions and thoughts and beliefs that I am embracing and fully voicing and articulating, and no one can take that power away from me. But
Mhm.
it but and when I say power, I want to make it clear, this is not about power over anybody. It's about us all using our own innate power
Yeah.
with. So when we're all in the power with zone,
Mhm.
guess what? We all rise and thrive.
We do. It's from a place of empowerment. Yes, because empowerment empowers. I'm empowered,
Mhm.
you're empowered, we empower. That's
Yeah.
that's what I'm getting from what you're saying. I want to share some of my because I was thinking back into my career journey as well, and identifying ways in which I got, I would say, hemmed up or caught
Mhm.
up or stopped by either self-silencing or being externally silenced. And so
Mhm.
for me, I have never been told that, "Oh, you don't you're so quiet. You don't really have many opinions, do you?" I've never really been told that, right? I am talkative. Like thinking about my early childhood in school, like I would get good grades, but I would always have lower marks when it came to over talking,
Yeah.
oversharing, talking too much in class, being social, right? And so I feel like I have thoughts, I have ideas, I have questions because I'm
Mhm.
extremely curious.
Curious.
And so that I do feel like I lead with that as a leader with curiosity and
Mhm.
question. And so there were some times in my career where I had questions and I feel like but I didn't have an agenda. I didn't have my own agenda.
Mm.
I think going between the just working hard, heads down, people will recognize this delivery of work, this excellence that I deliver in my doing. But by the time I looked up, years had passed, my peers had moved on, and I was still in the same place. And I was serving someone's agenda, but not my own.
Ah.
I hadn't put voice to what my own agenda would be. I hadn't reflected on what I would want for myself. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when I did share, I feel like I didn't have a broad enough, I would say, network.
Support systems,
Yes. Mhm. Right.
success squad.
Yes. So one of my mistakes, I feel like when I did self-advocate, and I feel like I did that to my direct line manager. That's who I was mostly doing it towards. Like I would share, and it would be during annual reviews. So it was
Yeah.
a year, if that. And then it was only with one person. I didn't have a broad enough network. I didn't have mentors. I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
sponsors. I didn't have just wise elders who were professionals who could relate to the type of
Yeah.
work that I was doing to pour into me, to help guide me, to give me other perspectives.
Yeah.
So important. I wrote down the word perspective taking when you were talking earlier, when you got the perspective of your manager who was within a culture, a larger culture that cared about their people.
Yeah.
Like it's a snowball effect. It's an ecosystem effect. So if I'm in an organization that doesn't really care about the people, they do care about the delivery. They do care about.
Yes.
And when I tell my direct line manager, and it's just like it just stays between the two of us, it doesn't expand out. It doesn't open up for more conversation. It doesn't open up for more inquiry as to seeing my light and wanting me to shine and wanting me to grow. Does that make
Here's
sense?
yes, it does. But here's the point. And it's a question to you and a question to everybody else who's listening as well. In terms of you sharing with that direct your manager, that
Yeah.
direct line.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I had one of my clients. This was the exact experience. Sometimes that direct line is actually threatened by our brilliance.
That's
And
what they had their own agenda. Whose
and so,
agenda
I
am I
mean,
serving? That's what I'm saying. I'm like, wait a minute here.
if
Whose
that's the
agenda?
case, if your manager is actually intimidated or threatened or whatever by
Yes.
you, and you are there telling them your ideas, your
Yes.
vision, your aspirations, guess what's going to happen? They're not going to share it, one, and they will do things to
Yes.
actually hold you back.
Oh my
So you're
God.
actually sharing it with the wrong person, and
Yes.
back to what you're saying about not having the right network. That's the another chapter in my book about the success squad. This
Yes.
is so foundational to our
Yes.
career growth and development. Having an advocate, at least one, but having those mentors, having those people who are for you, and you have to seek them out. They don't just come knocking on your
Right.
door, right? Some people are lucky, but most of us, we have to go seek them out and put in
Mm-hmm.
the time and energy and strategy to build that community, so that we're not just sharing with one person, we're having
Right.
multiple perspectives.
Yes.
And so and from that we can then see ourselves more objectively, because we're getting feedback from a number of different sources, number one. And
Yes.
also, when we're sharing to different people with different agendas, and
Mm-hmm.
in that we have more opportunity to get to what we want, as
Right.
opposed to the one. A lot of times I think people, Keshawn, what you're saying, a lot of us, even when we do it, it is to the one. It's our direct what do you call, direct line manager.
Mm-hmm.
And if that person's for you, great. But
Right.
if they're not, then you're just gonna be right. And one of my
Yes.
clients, I mean, she literally realized that her direct line man, and she was in a very high position,
Yes.
was sabotaging her. He
Yes.
would take her ideas and then make it like his own, and
Mm-hmm.
he would make her feel bad, and make her and want to make her play smaller, and it became so toxic. I mean, so
Yes.
not every work environment is meant for us. Not everyone is set up for us to thrive. And what Keshawn and I, what we're doing in our as leadership coaches, we're trying to create and empower and build up leaders who are
Yes.
going to build and create environments where
Yes.
everybody can be inclusive, be
Yes.
thriving, be healthy,
Yes.
be supportive. That's kind of like the bigger vision, right? Like
Big vision.
every
That's it.
person that we are coaching, helping, supporting, we are building up someone to be a better leader, which
Right.
means a better culture, which means a better organization, which
That's
means a
it.
better world, right?
Hello. That's it. That's the goal in a nutshell. Yes, you just told our secret sauce. That's it. It sounds so simple and idealistic. However, it's possible. We've seen it happen. Excuse me, time and time again through our clients, through our own stories. And so, yes, I'm so glad we're putting voice to this, because once again, we're either self-advocating or we're self-silencing. We're either being advocated for, or someone is silencing us,
Yeah.
right? This happens at the same time. It happens in parallel. And so being able to, I would say, have an agenda, know your agenda, and identify what, and you can even do some thought exercise, potentially what are the agendas of others that you are sharing your ideas with, sharing your goals with,
Yeah.
right? When we don't see movement towards the goals and the purpose that we have for ourselves, doing that reflective work, getting those perspectives and identifying, okay, ways to course correct and go about our journey, because
Yes.
it shouldn't be, when I'm working to build inclusive workforces, one of the tenets that I like to, as a value that I have,
Mhm.
that I want to ensure that the organizations that I work with also share, is
Mhm.
removing barriers.
Mm.
When people are putting up barriers, or they feel like it's a glass ceiling, a brick wall, a bamboo ceiling, I've heard all these different terms for it,
Mm.
that is evidence of people having their own agendas and not having the agenda that serves the greater good.
Right, right. Something in what you're saying here too was ringing, striking a chord in me about, oh gosh, did I just forget it? So many thoughts. It skipped, but it'll come back. But
Yes.
I think in terms of, okay, so oh, I know what it is. So in that self-reflection, you also want to consider, I could call them, I call them guardrails,
Yes.
conditions. What are those conditions, guardrails that you need to see or to build to make your vision, dream, aspiration possible?
Yeah.
That is a very, very honest and very, very critical question as you're building up your, you're developing in your career and you have your goals. You want to make sure that you are in a situation where you're setting yourself up to succeed in those goals. And one of the ways to do that is to know what are the conditions I need, whether it's a certification or I need to be affiliated with this team or whatever it is. Be very clear on what the conditions are that are going to help you to achieve that goal. And it might be I gotta make sure I'm talking to the VP of blah blah blah,
Mhm. Yeah.
whatever it is, because until you have that clarity, you're just kind of acting kind of reactively and randomly,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
there's no intention and strategy behind what you're doing.
So we want to marry and we want to lead with intention and strategy, and allow the tactics and the responses and even reactions that we have to fall underneath the
Yes.
strategic plan that we've set for ourselves, those goals that we have for ourselves. I was thinking that I love the word that you said, honest, because how often do we lie to ourselves, right?
Oh my God.
We oh my God, that part.
Well,
We
I was
need
gonna
to
say,
be
like, I
honest
think
with ourselves.
I
Yes.
think I think the lack of honesty with ourselves comes from when we are in that mode of not 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 being true to ourselves, and also being not being very self-aware. So
That's
when we're not self-aware, we either in a lot of denial, and with that denial comes lies, but we're not realizing we're lying to ourselves, or telling ourselves things that aren't true about us or others.
mm,
It's not like I'm going to just pretend this is what it is, even though that's not the reality, because you don't want to deal with either the conflict or the resistance,
mhm.
the whatever it is that's uncomfortable. So back to, we've got to be able to dance in the zone of discomfort if
Yes.
we're trying to be the leader who's going to make an impact, because there's going to be uncomfortable, unfamiliar,
Mhm.
uncertain scenarios, situations that we will have to navigate, because
Right.
that is part of the course. And
Mhm.
until we get comfortable with that, also, so I'm doing the Brene Brown data lead trading, and so it's all about the vulnerability required,
Yes.
and the vulnerability to
That's right.
sometimes do the thing that might end up being quote unquote seen as quote unquote failure, but
Mm,
actually it's not. It's about learning and
mm,
like, oh, now I understand how this works, so I will do it differently next. But there's so much in terms of the posture we bring forth
mhm.
that helps us either get to that leadership position that we desire, or prevents us from getting there. And we might
Yes.
want to tell ourselves, oh, because it's this, that, and not what I say in the book. In the beginning of my book, I say, often we are the greatest obstacle to our own
That's
success.
so true. Very often. Very often. And it becomes, I always look at it as the habits we formed for survival, for protection. We want to be liked. We want to be successful, but under whose definition of success are we operating under?
Right.
Important to ask that question. I think also it's really important to welcome the no. As you self advocate, you will hear no, and not
Yeah.
allow that to shut you down, to stop you. It doesn't have to be the end. I feel like so often we come into our adulthood having heard no so many times, no, do it this way, do it that way, don't do this, don't do
Yeah.
that, we then operate in our lives very robotically, very in a very, yes, go ahead. I see you wanted to say something. Yes.
We operate in our lives in a way that we are expecting the no, so we don't ask.
Yeah. So we don't even, boom, that part, that
So
part.
we don't even ask because we're
Yes.
already in that posture, but they're not going to agree, they're not going to like it. So I'm not going to even put it out there. And it's
Right.
like, wow, oh wow, like that is, oh my gosh.
Or we ask questions that we know we're going to get a yes to. However, are those in alignment with your agenda, your why, your purpose, your calling? Now, this is the deeper underlying. I feel like I had to wake up to my why, my purpose, my worth, that I wanted to be healthy. Number one, I wanted to model healthy leadership for my daughter. So it was a greater call for me than just doing it for myself. It wasn't
Yeah.
just about showing up in certain spaces and being recognized or being lauded for my work. How is this going to affect generations beyond me today? So
Yeah.
it was a legacy orientation that became my why and became my fuel. And I set my agenda from that. So in every conversation I have, I'm looking for ways in which that align with that call, that purpose for me to be
Yes.
healthy and well and to serve. Because every time I either self-silence or am not honest about what I'm asking for, there is a trickle-down effect. It does affect the next woman after me, the next person of color after me. It creates, it can also tie into the stereotypes and narratives that are existing that
Right. That we have to try to break free from. That the whole point. I mean, the whole point about us having even this conversation about self-advocacy is to go against the grain of, where back to that article where, if you're silent, don't say what you want. And please, that's how you're gonna get the respect you want. That is an old trope that is
it
so
is
old and not real and not true
not.
that we need to throw that out in the garbage and start to be like, who are we and what do, again, back to our authority as a person, as a human being,
Yes.
far less a woman of color, a woman who is of color, who's an immigrant, which is me, the triple part of that. But
Yes.
like, use our innate authority, and this is where I get into like the whole, and we don't have time at all, but it's 129, Keshawn.
I know.
But like, how do we channel that? I call it our sovereign, our sovereignty, our innate sovereignty, and that's where authentic authority becomes. So you have a different perspective on what that can look like when you think of, there's a part of you that is in charge, is sovereign, but it can be buried so far down you don't even know how to tap into her. And it's about doing the work to start to tap, because we all have it. We all have that agency, authority, being, but she could be so buried. And so when you work with a therapist coach like Keshawn and I, that's how you can start to uncover, unveil, and start to see who she is and how she presents to the world and what she feels and looks like. And she becomes familiar to you, because outside of that, she's unfamiliar. So you are there in that default mode that you've been conditioned to be. And there's a part of you that knows and wants so much more, but you haven't tapped into that part of yourself.
That's so good. There's so many more tidbits that are coming up for me that I want to say, but we're going to end it there. Would you like to end with what's, I would say, some points from this discussion that we've had so far that are most resonant to you? What stands out to you most of what we've shared today?
I feel like a lot of women especially believe that it is not their place to say certain things and to speak certain things and to, I just think that narrative, I feel like it's about the narrative that a lot of us have been conditioned. I think the younger generation, the Gen Zs, maybe have it a little bit differently, but a lot of us 30s, 40s and up, we still believe and buy into those things. And so it's like, how do we, and then knowing the tie to our health, the self,
Yes.
like the article, I wish I put the link in the thing, but I can't do it right now. But that was so like, wow, I've been there. And I
Yes.
didn't know that it could have been from that, from me not speaking up and out. So I feel like my biggest takeaway for this conversation for people to know is that you have a voice. Like I said in one of my affirmation cards, I'm a voice, not an echo.
Oh,
I
I just read that today. My daughter and I just read that this morning. No lie. Oh my God, it was so good. And so we talked about what that means. Oh
Yes.
my gosh, Natalie, thank you for, oh my, I always love the synchronicity. This is why we do this, y'all. This
Oh,
is because this is like, oh my, yes. Oh, chills, chills, chills. My voice is not an echo.
Yes.
Oh, and so I explained to her what that meant. So sometimes your voice is going to sound different than others. You have your own voice, you have your own needs, your own experiences.
Right.
It's not going to sound like what other people are saying. Sometimes you're going to say things that sound different, that are different. It doesn't have to be the same as everyone
And
else.
that doesn't make it wrong. It just
No,
makes it
it doesn't.
true. Yes.
Oh, that's so good. Oh my God, I love that synchronicity. That is so great. I love what
Always.
we do here. Okay, so some points for me, I think that are resonant. I just think about when you talked about just having the contrast of self-advocacy and self-silencing. So just having that in mind. So asking yourself a question as you go through your day, is this an opportunity or was that a situation in which I advocated for myself
Mm,
or I silenced myself?
mm,
Or is this a situation where I felt silenced? I felt like I was being
mm.
silenced. I felt like no one was showing up for me to advocate for me and my worth and my value. I just
Yeah.
think having those reflective questions can start you on a path of making different choices. And then all of the other things that we mentioned here, the importance of perspective taking, of your success squad, of and the core being your health. This is even why I even went into coaching,
Right.
establishing my company. At the core is I want to help people feel healthier and happier at work, period, because that's what I wanted for myself, because I
Yeah.
was once unhealthy and unhappy, making a lot of money, right? But that didn't serve me, and it didn't serve really anyone that I was working with. So it was a complete mindset shift and then life shift. So it
Yeah.
happened with me renewing my mind, and now I'm in community with people like Natalie Jobity who unveil people's brilliance, and we have these
Amazing, amazing. So here's the thing. This is a big, great segue for Keshawn and I are
yes,
going to be launching a group coaching program in January.
yes,
It's going to be called the Savvy Sisterhood Circle,
yes. So
and we are so excited to just share more. It's going to be um a 3 month engagement with us. We're going to have a few key topics, but the personality and the vibe you're getting here
yes,
is a taste of what it's going to be like. We're going to create a very safe,
yes.
intimate, transparent, vulnerable container for us to break out, for us to lead you all, to break you out of the narratives, the behaviors, enlighten you with real truth and science, neuroscience, and strategies and things that can help you rise above the things that maybe have been holding you back so far. And
Yeah.
so the authenticity you see here, the transparency, the personal stories, that's part of who we are. That's what we're going to show up as. Nothing's going to change, but we're going
Mhm.
to have a more structured container with a very intimate group of women who are really about the wanting to do better in 2024 and be better and be a greater impact. If that's sounding like you, keep up with us, what our talks and
Yes,
our LinkedIn presence and our yes, where we will be sharing exactly more details about
more.
that program.
That's it. We're going to share more. Until we do share more about the Savvy Sisterhood Circle, please continue to follow us on platforms, as Natalie said, on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We'll be sharing more of these stories and these topics related to leadership and growing and transforming into the best leader you can possibly be. We also have links too to our products. I'm going to put the links there, and we're going to then leave it at that today. I think we're good to go. But
Yeah.
yes, it's been a wonderful conversation, and I'm always so excited to share with you, Natalie. It's a pleasure and a privilege.
Thank you. Same. Bye,
Okay,
everyone.
bye.